Welcome to Becoming Untriggered, a podcast brought to you by psychodynamic coaches and parents of three, Lavinia Brown and Andrew Lynn.
Together we normalise and unpack common challenges faced by couples and parents, explore how these could be symptoms of unprocessed trauma, and support you with the tried and tested tools for you to show up as the mum or dad, partner, and person you deserve to be. Welcome to Becoming Untriggered podcast. Today we're looking at what's going on in the world right now, and a lot of it isn't pretty. We want to look at why the people that are in government right now, our so-called leaders, might be acting in the way that they do. Possibly this isn't just conscious decisions, it's also a result of their childhoods. Could our leaders be traumatized children? Is that the part of them that is in the driving seat right now?
Well, that would certainly explain a lot of their behavior and a lot of what we see in the world in terms of the levels of corruption and conflict and control that are going on. I certainly believe that most of our leaders are acting from that place of inner child.
Yeah, so let's talk about why that might be. It's actually a fact, because I've checked this, that a lot of our so-called leaders went to boarding school. Like a lot. And I'm not counting Mark Zuckerberg as a leader by any means, but a lot of the people that also run the big companies, the global conglomerates, went to boarding school. He is one of them. Boarding school is an example of not receiving the unconditional love that a child needs to thrive. If you are sent away, however happy you want to say that that experience was, because I have friends actually that went to boarding school and they said they chose to do that and they loved it. Great. But the fact is, even if you chose it, you're not in an environment where you can receive unconditional love. How can you? Your teachers, the staff at the school don't love you unconditionally. You may not have got that at home either, don't get me wrong. So it might have been a better solution for you to be surrounded by peers rather than by toxic parents. But the fact that you're sent away and that you're not in the home where your parents can at least try and provide that level of love is going to be damaging. You're institutionalized very early on. And institutions don't care about emotion. They don't care about empathy. They don't care about how comfortable you are, how understood you feel. They are there to deliver whatever they are there to deliver. So I think boarding school is a big factor that mustn't be dismissed when we look at the backgrounds of the people who are in charge right now.
Let's talk about what happens when you don't receive unconditional love or you perceive that you don't receive unconditional love. What happens is you externalize your self-worth, to put it very simply. And again, that's something that happens within these types of environments. Your worth is very much attached to how you behave, the kind of grades you get, the level of achievement that you've got. And therefore, you externalize your self-worth. That leads to a couple of things. That leads to you not being in charge of your own self-worth. Often you've got a rocky foundation of self-worth. So there's actually, even though these people can come across quite arrogant, quite self-confident, it's based on a foundation of low self-worth. Because you don't receive unconditional love, then you have a self-belief that you're not worthy of unconditional love.
Can we just unpack what conditional love looks like compared to unconditional, just so that it's really clear? If you received unconditional love, that would mean that it didn't matter what your grades were. It didn't matter what you looked like, what your size, your shape. It doesn't matter whether you had a tantrum and you were tired or hungry. It doesn't matter whether you got the best grades in school, whether you were good at athletics, whether you got grade 8 on the piano age 12. None of these things would have affected the amount of love you felt coming from your parents. So how understood you felt, how seen you felt when you weren't on top form. This is what we mean by unconditional love.
An aspect of that, like you mentioned, is your ability to be authentic without receiving love. If you don't get that, then you have an unconscious belief that you need to make other people happy to be loved, or you need to be somebody else to be loved. That's what we see play out on the stage today. You see a lot of our politicians or world leaders are corruptible because their self-worth is externalized. They're used to making other people happy. They had to make other people happy, whether that was their parents or their teachers or the system that they're in. They had to behave in a certain way to even survive in many aspects.
And on a less global stage scale, what is that? That's people pleasing, right? People pleasing, perfectionism, being an overachiever. All of this means that you have externalized your drive, your motivation, your desire to achieve and please. You're doing it for someone else or for something else, not for yourself.
Yeah, so you're externalizing pretty much everything. Even as we grow up as adults, we believe we're in control of our decisions, our relationships. But if you received conditional love and therefore you've externalized your self-worth, you're not actually in charge of your decisions, because that self-worth, that self-love and how you receive it still remains the most important thing for you. So rather than acting from this point of self-love and your decisions coming through you, your values, what you believe, the fact that you love yourself, the fact that you can project that onto others, there isn't even that mechanism at play. It's all externalized. So how can I make that other person happy? Who's incentivizing me? What do I need to do to climb this ladder to get more self-love? That becomes the construct with which you view your career, your life, and you make your decisions from.
And when we talk about self-worth, we're talking about rewards and punishment. It's the carrot and the stick. If your parents rewarded you for behavior that was in line with what they felt was appropriate or important, then they presumably rewarded you in some way. Maybe you got more attention. Maybe you got treated with food. Maybe you got time with a computer or whatever it was that you wanted. You were rewarded or punished. Things were taken away. You were dismissed, you were sent to your room. And this carries on into later life as an adult. You're so used to this reward versus punishment structure that you very quickly project your parents onto whatever institution you're in. So our politicians, whoever their masters are, you are waiting for whatever reward. Maybe that's money, maybe that's power, maybe that's a residence that you get as part of the job. And the punishment would be you'd be sacked. You lose that power, you lose that money. Like you said, you're not acting according to your values because you don't have any anymore. You're so used to putting your needs and wants and values second to someone external that then becomes your carrot and stick. You don't know what it is to know what you want anymore and to be driven from that place.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that have got a variation of this. A lot of our clients are high-functioning people. They're doing pretty well. And actually, the root of it is in a certain type of parenting. And it's well-meaning in some ways. Like, these type of parents are essentially rewarding what they think is good behavior or what they believe will make their children happy, which is being successful. But it's conditional.
We do it. When our children do well, we say, right, it's a treat meal, or let's go out and celebrate. It's very difficult to not reward when something has been achieved. The key is you don't want that reward, the behavior that you offer them or the attention that you give them when they've done something great, worth celebrating, to be that much higher than what they get normally. I think that's the key.
Exactly. You can reward behavior if they're receiving unconditional love as well. You can certainly celebrate achievement while providing them with a foundation of unconditional love, right? But the problem is, in many of these cases, you get no unconditional love. Plus, like you said, there's things like being sent to boarding school, which however much you dress it up feels like a personal rejection, especially if you haven't received any unconditional love up until that point in time. And then all of the love, the scraps of love that they receive are all based on their behavior, them doing what you tell them to do, or their external achievement.
So this is going to breed someone who not only does things out of a motivation that is externally placed upon them, but also it breeds a lack of empathy. If you don't feel loved inside, if you don't know what it is to love yourself, which essentially comes from your parents loving you, that's how we learn self-love because our parents are role modeling it. If you don't have self-love, it's impossible for you to love anyone else fully. I mean, it really is. You can't give others what you don't feel for yourself. And a lot of my clients don't really get this fully. That's why I say to them, I know you've come to me because you want to be a better mother. And I know you love your children, but you can't love your children as much as I know you want to, unless you love yourself the same. And they kind of don't get that bit. And it makes sense if you think about it. Theoretically, you can't give what you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup, that cliche. It's the same in terms of love as it is self-care. And maybe they don't realize that they're not giving unconditional love because they don't know what it feels like. This is why you have to do inner child work. You have to start off with receiving love from an inner parent, and then you know what it's like. Then you know what it is to feel unconditionally loved. And then you can give that. But back to our leaders, a lot of them don't have that self-love and therefore they can't empathize. And therefore they're not governing from a point of view of empathy, sympathy, connection, society as a whole. They're governing from a point of, well, what do me and my mates want, my rich mates?
That's certainly become more and more clear in the last few decades as we watch what's happening on a global scale, with the amount of corruption that's coming out in politics, certainly in the UK, which we see, and I know it's pretty much the same in the US as well. And it looks like the people in power have no empathy for anyone else apart from outside of their circle, like you see, and themselves. So a lot of the decisions that are being made that affect millions and millions of people are decisions that benefit them personally.
Therefore, they're short-term decisions, right? They're not long-term. It's like, how am I going to get that speaking slot for £1 million? How am I going to get that peerage in England, that become a sir or a lord or whatever it is? How am I going to get the quickest route towards more money or more power? Nothing is long-term anymore.
And part of them has been trained from a very young age to operate on that level, as we said. So what does that look like then in terms of the decisions and the world that we see now? You mentioned a lack of empathy, but also we know that having worked with people like this, there's a lot of emotional baggage attached to that receiving conditional love. There's the rejection, the low self-worth, the lack of empathy, but also there's a lot of anger involved in that process. As children, we really understand what we need, and when we don't get it, then we feel angry. And because we are trained to make other people happy, we're not allowed to express that anger. We're sent away to boarding school. Again, anger. We live a life separate from our parents. So there's anxiety. Again, more anger surrounding that. So these people that are completely unconscious about their childhood experience and leading from that point of low self-worth and also reacting to that anger that they've got in their body, right? And what do they do? What do you do when you're in a position of power? Like on a micro scale, you might attach to that anger and project it onto your partner or your children or that person in the supermarket. But when you're in charge of decisions that involve conflict, you're going to attach to that anger. And then the implications of that are huge. We've seen the amount of wars that are going on at the moment, the amount of conflict, bloodshed. A lot of the decisions to engage in that conflict is made by people that are probably repressing a lot of anger.
Well, they're reactive rather than responsive, which is why everyone comes to work with us. They no longer want to be reactive. They want to be responsive. Unfortunately, most of our leaders have not done that work, so they are reactive. So yeah, it's about power play. It's about greed. It's about winning in whatever way they feel that they're winning. But it's not got anything to do with what is best for the country or their people.
Basically, a lot of the leaders, because of who they are, they're extreme versions of a section of society. They're extreme versions of our clients. They have extremely low self-worth. They are very well trained type A people pleasers. They are very angry.
And also you could say that the type of person that is driven to get that high up in politics or government already has a massive chip on their shoulder, because I think to be able to be so much of a puppet, you're totally institutionalized. So you've got to have something slightly wrong. I read about Trump the other day that he was sent to boarding school very, very young because he had behavioral issues. Well, where are the behavioral issues from? Probably his parents. And then they decided they didn't want him. Then they sent him away so that someone else would deal with his behavioral issues. That's not going to solve it, is it? So you're creating this machine that not only needs to prove itself to other people, but needs to prove itself to itself, all the repressed feelings. So let's talk about how we actually manage this, because I know that especially in America, but also in the UK or in many, many countries around the world, there's shit going down. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel maybe as stable as it has in the past. I don't believe that things have changed that much. Personally, I believe that it's just being shown to a much, much greater degree. But I've had quite a few clients say to me that they felt really terrified actually of what ICE is doing in America, and how they feel that it's not even safe to step foot outside. They've had friends or friends' nannies or friends' children, their children's friends affected by this. And the way that we unpacked it in our session was, okay, first of all, yes, your fear is absolutely valid. It makes complete sense that it doesn't feel safe. It makes complete sense that things feel unpredictable and out of control. So that's the first thing, normalizing any fear that is there. Second step, however, go a little bit deeper. What might this external sense of unsafety, unpredictability be triggering in me that I'm already carrying? Because if you think that what's going on outside is mixing with what you're already carrying inside, which relates to your childhood and whatever felt unsafe and unpredictable, then you are going to be 100 times more overwhelmed and more distressed by what is going on outside, because what is going on outside your house is taking you back into feelings that you had when you were 7, 8, 12. So we want to unpack and release any unprocessed fear, anxiety that you're carrying already, so that that isn't mixing with the very real threats that are happening outside the house. That's really important, because that's how you're going to be able to manage these feelings of unsafety that are happening outside, because you are going to deal with it from adult you.
Yeah, there's so much going on in the world. Like you said, it's probably always been going on, but now we have social media. So if we want to tap into any conflict or anger or disturbance, whatever's going on, we have it at our fingertips. And the external world really is a mirror for us. And we get attracted actually from the feelings inside us. We often unconsciously get attracted to plugging into those energies, right? We vibrationally match to what's going on at the moment. The problem with that is that we're parents, and it's our job to create safety within the house. So like you said, it's really important to try not to get carried away emotionally with all the stuff that's going on at the moment in the world. And the way to do that is not to ignore it 100%, but to recognize your part in the emotional experience you're having. And maybe you're being dragged into something because partly you're carrying emotion into that interaction, into that experience. So in some way, it's like a trigger. It's like your child triggering you. Whatever thing you're engaged with, whether it's the unsafety of ICE or whether it's the anger at the corruption that's going on or the Epstein stuff that's just come out right now, there's an opportunity, rather than attaching to it and multiplying that emotion and then bringing it into your house, there's a responsibility and an opportunity for us to process and release the emotion that's bringing up.
Yeah.
Right. So we can protect the safety of our house and protect the safety of our children from that emotion.
Yeah. So I mentioned sadness and anxiety that might come up, feeling unsafe. Another big one is powerlessness. So especially with this war going on that no one wants to fund, wars. So many wars going on right now, which I don't think anyone truly wants any part of. We just want an easy life for our children to be safe and healthy and for life to be easy, to be able to afford things. So this powerlessness is very relatable to your childhood. And your children may or may not be exposed to what is going on. They will to some degree through school and children talking at school, or they might have their own screens, in which case they might be seeing live images of what is happening in other countries, or like I said, the Epstein stuff. They will then feel powerless, which is a normal reaction. They will then turn to us for guidance, for safety. If we feel powerless because we haven't yet done the work, then that's not going to help them. We have to be able to show them that however powerless we might be as a populace, we have power in our own lives to do the things that matter to us and to connect with the people that we want to connect with. So I want to unpack that a little bit because I think that will give people some tools to use daily now to help them manage. First of all, I would say connect to the people that you love. Spend more time. I mean, this is obvious really, but I'm saying it just to remind you. Spend more time with the people that you love, your children, your partner, your friends, the people that give you back the love that you give them rather than online. Like Andrew said, yes, it's good to be up to date, but you don't need to be up to date on everything. You don't need to know everything that's happening every moment. That's actually a sign of anxiety, doom scrolling, or feeling like you need the latest news to feel in control. It's a false sense of control. Control will come when your body is regulated, when you feel safe. And you will feel safe when you're able to give and receive love to real people, not be stuck in some simulated, albeit real, reality that's on a screen. That's my first tip.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we can do is do the work that our leaders haven't done. Do the release work. Take responsibility for ourselves. Because actually, if you think about the hopelessness of the situation, what can we do? What can we do as individuals to try and change what's happening in the world? It's very hard to do it on a practical level. It's very hard to change the systems of control. But I do think that each of us as individuals can have an impact by doing the work and being the opposite of the leaders, by releasing all that emotion that all this stuff brings up, by repairing the relationship with our own inner child and rebuilding that foundation of self-love. And then coming back out into the world, interacting with ourselves, our partners, our children, the people we work with, our business partners, our neighbors, our community, interacting with them from that point of authenticity and self-love actually has a massive effect. We shouldn't downplay the impact we can have as individuals by doing the work to actually change the vibration, to change our communities. I believe that's probably the only way we can have an impact on a global scale is by taking responsibility and doing the work as individuals.
I agree. And also, we touched on it earlier, not getting so sucked into the emotions that we're being shown that it takes over anything we are feeling. It doesn't help anyone for you to deny yourself joy or happiness or love or connection. I know this is sometimes an unconscious feeling that we have. Oh, I can't be happy. It's not right to feel joy because other people are suffering. And I get that. But in the end, if you're suffering, it doesn't help them. It's not serving any purpose. Feel the love, feel the joy, albeit dampened, because it's that also is not doing anything, but at least you are not contributing to this overall global sense of anxiety and fear. And remembering also, I want to touch on the fact that even if you're not on a 24/7 news channel, we are connected. It sounds woo-woo, but we are, because we can tell by how much anxiety children are feeling now. We pick up on other people's energy, whether they're in the same house or country or village. We are linked globally and we can pick up on other people's emotions. So cutting yourself a little bit of slack if you don't understand why you're feeling a certain way, you're probably picking up on lots and lots of other people feeling the same thing. And I want to finish off on saying nature, again, obvious really, but nature's been there forever. Trees have been there for hundreds of years. Just getting out of your house and spending time around trees that have been there for so much longer than you have, for me at least, gives me such a sense of perspective. It's very, very grounding. And forest bathing is a thing. You can look it up. In Japan, at least, they've done experiments on literally how it can change your brain and how regulated you feel. The color green is also very soothing. So being anywhere where there is grass, where there are plants, spending time with a plant in your home if you can't get out of the house, just connecting with nature in some way, listening to the birds, tuning into what it is that makes you human. That's very, very helpful.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think sometimes it can feel like we don't have any control, especially over the macro, especially over big things. But I believe we do. And I believe the control is actually in the bits that we are responsible for. So for us as individuals, we can be regulated. Breath, yoga, nature, meditation, releasing all of your emotional baggage. We can be present by doing the same thing. We are in charge of our own self-worth. We are in charge of how authentic we are and how purposeful we are. And those things then have a knock-on effect of how we turn up in the world. If everybody takes responsibility for those things and everyone's turning up from a present, regulated point of view, from a point of self-worth and making connections with other people, with family and community from that place, then I believe that will have an impact certainly on us and the people around us, but also on a macro scale as well.
So to recap, are our leaders traumatized children? Yeah. Yes. Anyone that is not acting from a safe, grounded, regulated, empathetic place has got childhood issues. As we've said, everyone should do this work, not only us, but our leaders. Are they ever going to do it? Who knows? They got there because they didn't. So who knows? But if that helps you feel any better, yes, they've got issues and they're traumatized. And there are things that we can do to help us manage the knock-on effect of their behavior.
If what we discussed was helpful, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. For more of the same, check out my social media, The Inner Child Healing Expert, or to work with me, go to laviniabrown.com.
You can find me on andrewlynn.net or Life Coach for Dads on Instagram. We work with both individuals and couples. If there are any topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out. Thanks for listening.